Yep.
Fantastic. There you go. Have a good meeting.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Welcome. It is Tuesday, May 28th, 2024, and this is the Scituate Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee meeting. We continue to meet via remote participation due to the COVID-19 pandemic. On March 29th, 2023, Governor Healy signed into law a supplemental budget bill, which, among other things, extended the temporary provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to March 31st, 2025. This allows public bodies to continue holding meetings remotely without a quorum of the public body physically present at a meeting location, and to provide adequate alternative access to remote meetings. This meeting will be recorded by Scituate Community Television and can be viewed live on Scituate Community Television Facebook Live. The recorded meeting will be available the following day on Comcast Channel 9 and YouTube Scituate Community Television. So with that, I will read our commitment statement. This is a safe, secure space for all people, especially people of color, and for all underrepresented people and communities. This is a space where people can bring up challenges and questions without fear. We will assume best intentions, and we will treat one another with politeness and respect at all times. This committee is dedicated to these standards. We want our members and others joining our meetings to feel welcomed and respected. Thank you. So with that, I would like to call the meeting to order. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Angela. So I will call the roll. Ms. Dre.
Yes.
Ms. Sun.
Yes.
Ms. Risha.
Yes.
And Ms. Galata.
Yes.
All right. And I am a yes. So thank you for attending. We have our quorum. All right. I guess first order of business. I mean, let's get through the minutes. There's two sets. I have reviewed Kate's from January 22nd, 2024, and then Celia sent hers over today from April 24th, which I have not had a chance to look at. So let's take the January 22nd, 2024 minutes. I didn't have any revisions, commentary, or anything else. Did anybody else? Okay. All right. So I'd like to move to accept the minutes from January 22nd, 2024. Can I get a second on that?
Second.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Ms. Dre.
Yes.
Ms. Sun.
Yes.
Ms. Risha.
Yes.
Ms. Gulata and company.
Everyone's a yes in this household.
Right. And I am a yes. Okay. Celia's minutes. Did anybody have a chance to look at them?
I looked at them and I did not have any comments. They looked fine.
Okay. All right, then I will move to accept the minutes from April 24th, 2024. Can I get a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Calling the roll, Ms. Dre.
Yes.
Ms. Sun. Ms. Gulata. I'm just going by order. Celia moved. Ms. Risha.
Sorry, there's chaos. What did you just ask me?
We're accepting the minutes that you wrote.
Oh, yes, I wrote yes.
Enthusiastic, yes. And I am a yes. Okay, great. And I think it's going to be my turn again. This whole alphabet, it's really kind of snuck up on me.
I haven't gone yet, so you can punt to me.
All right. Punted.
Punted.
Okay. Good. So we'll make sure that there's a AI script that comes out of these meetings now. I don't know if you knew that, Elena. And Seth usually sends that over to me, and I'll make sure you get it. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Let's get rolling. So the first order of business that I was going to bring up, Maura, she's officially done on the select board, right? Which I realized because her email is kicking back at me when I send notes. But goes without saying for all of us, and certainly those of us that have been on this committee since day one, she was an incredible advocate for this committee. And not just in terms of the content, but in terms of teaching us how to be on a committee, you know, and just the rules of the road and so forth, which were, I'm not going to say difficult, just, you know, different, you know, from probably most of us who attend loads and loads of meetings in our day-to-day job. She really kind of, I don't know, shepherded us along the way and was so patient and giving up her time and so forth. And not just with these meetings, but on the occasions, both, you know, unfortunate at times with some of the things that have happened in this town, and you know, just other more kind of celebratory events that this committee may have played a part in. I mean, she was just always present, you know. So maybe she's watching right now. I have no idea, but she was phenomenal. It's going to be big shoes to fill. I did get the note from, I forwarded it to all of you, I think earlier today. I think it was Lorraine Devon who sent it. Looks like our new liaison is going to be James Gilmore. I don't have it in front of me, so I hope I just got that right. So I will reach out to him. I don't know him. I'm not sure if anybody does that's on this that's on the call tonight. But I'll reach out to him, introduce myself, and, you know, get him up to speed and see what that's going to look like in terms of, you know, his attendance at these committee meetings and so forth. So any questions on any of that? Okay. All right.
Just a second, that if Maura's out there watching in the universe, just a second, thank you. She's been a phenomenal just champion and advocate and really lives this work. So thank you to Maura.
Yeah, no doubt. Thank you for that. Jamil, you want to lead us off? And I know you're winding down the school year, but good to see you. Sorry about the Knicks. Not really. Not really sorry about the Knicks.
Oh my goodness.
You know.
Hey, you know what? We all right. We happy with where we got to. But I wanted it to be the Celtics and the Knicks. It would have been way more exciting than the sweep that the Celtics just did.
I did too.
That was just embarrassing. Now, the word around town is that the Celtics ain't ready for Dallas, but we'll see what happens.
We'll see about that.
We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. But you know what? I'm already ready for the Jets, partner. So here we go. Whether Aaron stays or not, and healthy rather, that is. Anyway, so yeah, a couple things since last I had time to hang out with this incredible group of folks. We have a crosswalk project that's happening. I'm not sure if everyone is aware of this or not, but the school committee had approved for the crosswalks at every school to be painted, as long as the theme behind them was connected to lit. And so our lit teams at each school have actually created some art for the crosswalks to be done. So now what we have to do now is identify artists. So whether that be one or a group of people to do the art. I imagine this would take place over the summer, but we'll see what happens with that. So that'll be exciting to take place.
So that's going to be permanent art?
Yeah, it'll be on the crosswalks. Yeah,
That's really
Yeah.
cool.
yeah.
those-
And imagine, go ahead.
Sorry, student artists, do you think, or just artists, like around from local artists?
You ask a good question there. Because I'm preparing an email that was going to go out to faculty, but you got me thinking now. Maybe it's an opportunity for some students to, because the person or the group of people would get paid to do it. It's not a free ask.
Even
So-
better for the
Or
students.
maybe, some students and staff, or maybe a group of students. You know what? Thanks for asking that question.
No,
They hadn't even, what I was thinking, because the lit teams are asking, are we going to paint? I said, no, but what we can do is make sure we leave something for you all to paint when you get back in the year. But we can still do that. But if some students do it over the summer, that's a really good idea. Let me dig into that and see what's up with that. I don't think anyone would reject it, but I
Yeah.
hadn't thought about that piece.
Was
Yeah,
that something that was
so-
pushed through by the school committee or?
Yeah, in fact, it was.
Today?
In fact, Nicole Brandolini was on it. It kind of, but a while ago, someone had mentioned it for Hatherley, and that's how Hatherley got its new, well, fairly new. It's about 2 years old now, well, a year old crossover. But it was Nicole had pushed it forward and said, "Hey, let's do this kind of thing," and everybody else, "Yeah, let's do it." And so they gave me the green light. So just connected with the teams, and they all put it together. The students are super excited about it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. The next thing was the assistant superintendent search continues. So no individual availed as of yet. I imagine as soon as possible we'll get someone going, because she's out of here July 1. So stay tuned for that. Then some events that are happening. The third annual Pride Open Mic is happening. The GSA is pulling that together. And they're doing it on their own, so this is great. And I was just asked if I could host it. I was like, okay, this is how you want things to happen. They exist on their own, and then boom, there it is. So that happens on June 6th. That's a Thursday. And 3:30 on June 6th. Then at 1:00 on June 19th, we'll do our recognition event for Juneteenth. And then we'll have the return for that event. We'll have some of our scholars speaking, and we'll have the return of the Southeastern step team. So they'll do their thing as well. So that'll happen. And then a community piece was that we had a second meet and greet with our Scituate Police Department. That went really well. Again, just meeting the rest of the squad. So again, a goal is to actually do something similar with students and give them an opportunity to meet officers as well. So everybody. And then I think in particular how powerful it could be for our students from Boston to have some of that time with our police officers and having experience that's really positive. So the chief and officers are all with it and positively thinking about that. So all good things at this point. The Freedom Team, we haven't had anything reported. So that's that. Let's see. AMSTOP stuff, no. I think that's it. I think those are the things for right now. Yeah.
Thank you.
We're putting some energy into trying to really. I will share this. You should expect some big energy going into how we highlight Scituate being a Metco district for 54 years. Like that's significant. In fact, it's only 2 years less than the actual existence of Metco itself. So you know, we're gonna put some energy into that and see some things happen. The goal is to be one of the best MECO districts ever. Do it so well that if anything was to happen to MECO, that folks still trying to come out. So that's what we're trying to do.
Excellent.
We should, yeah. I will pause because I can ramble on that one for a while.
Is
Right.
is our MECO enrollment pretty stagnant right now? I don't mean that negatively, but is it pretty level with past years?
Yeah, I would say yeah. Stagnant is. I mean, I get why you would say you didn't mean it in a negative way. We're still around 70 families.
Okay,
So,
Maybe consistent is a better word.
thank you.
yeah, it's a you know, the growth is.
You're doing the minutes, so just pick whatever word you want.
Good call.
All right, cool.
And
Thanks,
then
Jamil.
is it
Any
true?
questions for Jamil? Sorry, Celia, go ahead.
Oh, no, I don't know if it's for Jamil or Bob, but I heard too Cushing is looking for a new principal when I dropped my son off for orientation.
Oh yeah, Christian is looking for a new principal. That is factual.
Yeah. Oh,
That is Scott is exiting, and that the position is out there, so folks are applying. I don't know how many folks have applied at this point, but yeah, there is a search. Scott's gonna, I think he's gonna ride out the rest of this year, but then we'll need a new Cushing principal, which is gonna be interesting. See how that plays out, because whoever takes the position has to realize that there's gonna be a shift, because Hatherley and Cushing are going together, and so you got to figure out what does that mean for that person. Because I'm not quite sure the plan with how the principalship will go, kind of thing. So, but that'll be part of
How
the.
many more years for Cushing School? 3?
I guess it depends on the timeline for the new building, right?
Yeah, Celia just sitting with 3.
See, is that that's how you
yeah.
understand
I forget her.
Yeah.
I think it's Tammy over there at Cushing Tedeschi. I'm
it?
gonna.
Tedeschi, yeah.
Yeah, she was saying 3 years for the move.
Okay. So something like that. Provide everything is on time with the build and things like that. So that's a significant time, but you know, it'll play a role.
Okay.
Thank you for asking it, because I didn't have that in my notes.
Anything else for Jamil? School wise or lit or anything else? All right. Bob, how about updates from the town that you feel are worth sharing?
Yeah, I guess 2 things sort of DEI related. One, you know, just a couple of years ago, we were able to get out of civil service with the police department. And we negotiated that into that contract. And always with the thought that that would also help us with creating a little bit more diversity. And with the last contract we just agreed with the fire department, there was also an agreement to get out of civil service. So, you know, I mean, it's always been, you know, with being a civil service town, it's virtually dictated to you who you're hiring. You have to go through this process, and you don't have much latitude in terms of sort of a more broad recruitment strategy. One of the things that getting out of civil service for the fire department will allow us to do is getting transfers from other towns, people who are non-civil service towns who are firefighters or paramedics who may be interested in transferring over. So that was good. I think for us, it gives us more latitude, and certainly from a DEI perspective, we're feeling like it may help us in terms of our, you know, diversity recruitment efforts. So that was good to see that. The only other piece of news is that our media manager, Kathy Reagan, we feel has been doing a great job. She was not looking for work, but she was offered a full-time position somewhere else, and she opted to accept that. So I feel like it's kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, you know, or vice versa. But anyway, so that was a bit disappointing. One thing that we definitely learned is it was an effective position. So there's a real sort of push, I think, for us to kind of quickly fill that. And I know that a lot of the work that we're doing is somewhat dependent on that position, because so much of our work is dependent on the communication piece. So we'll just make sure that I think that as we recruit for that position, we get someone who certainly can see it from that perspective and understands the importance of looking at it from this lens. So, but those are the two big, more recent things that have happened within the town that affect the work that we do.
Yeah, that's disappointing, I guess. She was only like 18 hours a week, right?
Yeah, at this point, we're looking to see if maybe even we could, I think that we'd love to even give it some more hours, so we'll see if that can happen too, because again, once you stop the effort, you begin to see, oh, okay, this need really exists and some really positive movements, so.
Would it be possible for it to be a full-time role to try to secure someone in a more permanent? Because then I worry that you keep hiring part-time and this could happen again.
Right. I talked to the finance director today about that, I was sort of advocating, but, I'm not sure that the funds are there. I was able to maybe get a few more hours out of her, but,
Nice job.
so, there's enough a lack of effort, but,
Right, of course.
there's also the question is it really, that a full-time job, but, that's always sort of the debate, but, the good thing is we had a couple good applicants last time. We had some good applicants to choose from, so we're hoping that maybe some of them may still be available, so, we'll get some good in,
Yeah.
Bob, I'll connect with you offline. I know my day job just hired for a communications position and got a ton of applicants, so we can.
Excellent.
All right. Okay, so some updates on, obviously, anyone jump in here. Some updates on well, actually, let me talk about, so I think in the last meeting, I mentioned that I'd been basically playing phone tag and email tag with Karen Canfield dating back a couple meetings ago, where the select board was going through old policies, and Karen specifically was working with Lorraine, and they were pretty deep into the process. I did finally connect with Karen a couple weeks ago, over 3 weeks ago now, and she was going to go through the list and send documents my way, and then I was going to look at them and then talk to everybody here, specifically select board policies and so forth. I think digging through the archive, she realized that a lot of the policies hadn't been written or rewritten in several years, I think. She's yet to reconnect with me. I should have reached back out to her, but so that's something that I'm going to reach back out to Karen, now that I'm thinking about it, tomorrow or the next day, and see, now that the elections are over and so forth, and to see where she stands on that. And I'll let everybody know if we can lend a hand or give it a review or what have you. I don't know what the scope of it looks like, to be honest. She was gonna, again, get that list together and send it along. And then there were a couple of different meetings that I'll need some help recapping. I was able to attend both, but my recall is tough right now. The last few weeks have been crazy for me, but there was a DPW meeting on April 29th, and there was the Scituate Police Department meeting on May 8th. And I do have some notes, but so the DPW meeting was Celia, Bob, Christina, and then I was able to attend. I think I left like an hour into a 90-minute meeting, if my recall is any good at all. So I'll just touch on a couple of my notes, and then Celia, Bob, if you want to jump in. So So it was with Kevin Cafferty, who is he heads up the DPW department, and he was great, and he seemed very open in the discussion. The DPW, there's 52 employees. Again, I'm not sure of the accuracy of all this. 54% of all employees live in Scituate. 85% of the 52 are either in Scituate or 6 of the surrounding towns.
Of town employees, not DPW employees, right, Bob? Those stats.
Right, correct. That's the entire town.
Thank you. Okay. All right. With regards to DPW, they don't require college degrees. It seems like one of the big sticking points, though, for DPW candidates are CDL and hydraulic licenses, so commercial driver's licenses. And I think Kevin said it's about $12,000 to get that license. And they want everyone to be able to get the license to be able to drive the trucks and so on and so forth. There's 5 to 6 open, as of a month ago, 5 to 6 open positions, 4 hourly, 1 is salary. They all provide benefits. Those are the majority of my notes. And then we talked towards the end when I had a jump. I believe we were talking about communications and the notices to the town, and the drinking water notice that went out that we've talked about in this meeting before, which was the mailing, and how to ensure that A, gets into everybody's hands, B, that people can read it, and so forth. So that was kind of those were just some of my takeaways just based on my notes. Celia and Bob, I don't know what you have to add.
Yeah, around that, the water notice, so something that Kevin shared with us is that, so he's gonna check with his, with the superintendent, Eric, because Eric works with the Department of Environmental Protection, DEP. I don't know if I got that right, Bob, for spelling. Because DEP may already have it translated for their website, because this is all under their jurisdiction, we learned. But DPW, or the Water Division, does have the authority to make a few modifications to DEP language. You know, for example, they have to edit the letter to say like where the samples were taken. So we thought, if you're editing, could you add some translation up top too, or check with them? But he did say that the mailing goes through our water department. So an idea we had on the call was like, if our water division is physically mailing it, could you at least put a sticker on it? So you're just like doing it as you mail it. So even if DEP doesn't allow you to edit the text on the letter itself, as you fold the letter, like, can you just put a sticker on it that says, this is an important health notice, please seek translation or something. So a few of the next steps there, we were going to talk, I think someone was talking to DEP. I don't know why I said there's a town assessor conversation, but we were also going to speak with Kathy, which is not happening now. But the future communications person will also have to be looped in. But it was enlightening to know that the DEP connection there and what can and can't be modified. Bob, can you correct me?
Yeah, no, that's my memory as well. I did the town assessor comment probably related to, because the town assessor is basically sending out tax bills, and on the back of those tax bills is a form that just has some instructions on how to fill out the front of the form. And so we did have a conversation with the town assessor about whether or not that can just be, you know, those instructions can be provided in a couple different languages. I did end up talking to Kathy Reagan regarding that one issue of just having, I mean, she had a concern that, you know, if this is a DEP template letter, we may not have the ability to edit it, or we have to go back to the state. I'm not really sure that that's true. And back to your point, Celia, it could be nothing more than adding something that we slip in the envelope. But I think that, and so I did talk to her about coming up with with common language that we could use for virtually any mailing, to be honest with you, that basically says, if you, and the 2 or 3 preferred languages that we want, that says, if you want to see a translation of this notice, go to this website. So, so we did have the conversation, and then like, so anyways, but yeah, so
With-
that was,
To
Okay.
figure out whether or not we need the state's approval, like how do we figure that out and then map next steps in case we do? Like, would that then, if we figured out we needed their approval, would we have to go to the select board and recommend that like Jim Boudreau go to them? Would it be like, you know what I mean? Like what's,
yeah, right. I mean, I can, I'm doubtful that it will be required. I mean, so
Yeah.
I think that, and I can talk to Kevin. I haven't spoken to him since our meeting, so I can find out if they've talked to DEP. You always wonder if it's either, better not to ask, but I'll do that, and then I'll report back to everyone. But my sense is, particularly, again, if we use the strategy of just something that we're adding to the packet, I don't see any reason why we should be able to do that. So,
But where would we point them? You know,
what was that?
where would we point them? Like in what direct? If it was the water notice and that's Mass
It could
DEP.
be hosted on as a town alert on our website, which is where I think most, when you click through on the town emails, doesn't it take you back to the website to
Yeah.
a alert page?
Right.
So maybe it could be hosted there as it's alert, right?
Right.
And then that page can be translated usually.
Right. So I think as long as whatever document is going out, as long as it's on that website and not as part of a PDF, and it may be, and I'm just thinking out loud, right? It may be
Yeah.
that if it's a notice that's going out from DPW, that verbiage will actually direct them to the DPW page, and then we go to that page, they would be able to use the Google Translate function there. So it may require some significant instructions to get them there, but I think that's something we could probably work on. So that's something I think, particularly with the new communications manager, we can work on that verbiage and present it back to everyone here. And we can just make it unique to any department that's sending out mailings. And I don't think there's that many departments that do that, but
No, it doesn't. It doesn't happen often.
right.
It ironically happens every time I have a baby though, which is funny. Because this literally happened 2 years ago with Gabrielle. I'm happy to help with this. And I think, Bob, we worked on language, boilerplate language, I remember. So I can dig that back up in my email and maybe resurface it. And I'm happy to help with this, as apparently I just have children and the water breaks again. So good thing I'm done.
I think the other thing that we really want to do is just, determine when that's really necessary. I mean, I think it's particularly for an important, health notice. I mean, I'm thinking things that go up from the Board of Health, but, I don't know if you need a translation service for, I don't know, because I'm not sure what other mailings go out, but yeah.
I agree. Health notices is definitely the most important.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not weekly. It's not even monthly. It's a handful of times a year. I think we get something from the town of Scituate, in the mail. I mean, emails are different. They come out all the time. And like you were saying, Elena, most of the emails, you can click on something to direct back to the website, use Google Translate, we're good. Right.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
the other thing I like about it is that, even if that notice may not be relevant to whoever's reading it, that they at least have now been informed that information from the town is available through Google Translate. And they may get that a couple times a year. So so that function exists. How many people know about it? I'm not sure. The mailings will
Absolutely.
help get the notice out,
Yep. Yeah, totally agree.
So in terms of the DPW meeting, I mean, there was one of the one, I always say it about DPW it's sort of a challenge, but also an opportunity, I think, is the recruitment efforts that we're always trying to make with DPW. We seem to have a fair amount of turnover, in part because we're competing with, private contractors who are sometimes, seasonally, but maybe paying a lot of money. One of the things that we talked about, and I don't know, maybe this is something, Jamil, that your name came up and thought maybe you may be able to help us out with, is one thought was to have a conversation with Metco, the representative from Metco, and the general thought is that I think that there's a fair amount of really kind of sort of, I don't know, what's the word? Just great opportunities, I guess, through DPW, particularly for someone who is not interested in going on to further education. And so I feel like, our thought was we want to reach out to guidance in terms of, making sure that students who may not be thinking of, further education have, think of like applying to the water treatment plant where you can get a certification and make good money. The other thought was, as a way of recruiting some diversity, we talked to Metco because, again, the Metco kids are a part of our community as well, but they may not be always thinking about working for the town. So, we were thinking of just like some opportunity to sit down with either it's guidance or Metco or both, and really talk about like what options, opportunities are available to students. One of the challenges that we have is that, for many of these jobs, we're looking to, we're typically looking to get people who have some level of work experience. So it's not often we're hiring people right out of school, but that doesn't mean we can't like start the process of getting them thinking about it. Maybe it's the summer employment that we have to offer. And sometimes what happens, our current wastewater treatment plant superintendent was actually originally a summer employee who was just, came from the high school. So sometimes that works out, but we were thinking it may be helpful to have somewhat of an introduction to some of those school employees to see if like maybe we can at least get a conversation going. You all for it?
Go ahead, Jamil.
I think that's a good idea. I think vocationally speaking, from that angle, it gives all students an opportunity to just think about something they hadn't thought about before. I wouldn't go directly to students from Boston, but definitely have them included in the conversation and connecting with the director and visionary for it, so that there's that consideration, because it really fits with how folks consider life after high school at this point, because you got to figure out, coming from higher ed, you have to, at this point, you got to figure out how college can work for you or not, because it's a heavy investment. And, going to the days where going to college guarantees you a decent, paying salary kind of thing in the position. And so you got to figure out how to make that work. But the entrepreneurial route for something vocationally is really helpful. So my thought is maybe it's just an opportunity to set up in conjunction with SPS and see how we get that out to folks. I think it's a great opportunity. The Department of Works is awesome. I know, being a city kid myself, I never thought about any of that stuff. The closest to it was probably sanitation, because I see them on the trucks. I see them doing their thing. I knew they earn pretty decent money, but I didn't know anything about the Department of Works and all that. So yeah, I think it's an opportunity there to be capitalized on.
Yeah, water treatment's a perfect example. Before I worked for the town, I never knew that occupation even existed, right? And so every town, most towns have a water treatment plant. Those positions, if you get certain certifications, which don't require higher education, is just studying for the test, and it's some work to certainly get those higher certifications. But some of those operators with overtime are making $90,000 a year, so they're good jobs. And And I think a lot of people are not aware that opportunity exists. So a lot of it, it's for us, I mean, we are frustrated because we see them as good opportunities, but we've always struggled with sort of advertising appropriately and recruiting appropriately and kind of getting the word out. So the more we can do that, the better off we are.
Bob, let me ask you this: what are the possibilities that it could almost be a class that folks take, learn some things, and at the end of it, maybe they have the opportunity to get hired? I don't know. Just thinking outside of the box already with it.
Yeah.
I have no control over curriculum and none of that
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah,
but I
right,
was just
right.
thinking.
You know, I
know.
think I think I heard some of the vocational schools are starting to do that. Looking at things that, around like wastewater and water treatment. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of the lower level certifications are not that difficult to obtain. And when if someone has those, they have that they call it a T1, a treatment 1 license from the state. You have that, and then you have your choice of town that you want to work that you can work for. So it's a great opportunity for people that may not be, they're not aware that it's available to them. So we certainly could have that conversation too, Jamil. I think it's a great idea.
Bob,
think
Kevin
that's
did also mention that the department already got funding to do something in-house. So to train him, there's kind of like a not to train the trainer, but finding an employee that has a CDL to conduct a training for other people. So
Right.
it wouldn't be the $12,000 they would have to pay. So that's a real benefit too.
Right.
We also batted around a few other ideas around hiring. I had shared that I had connected with somebody within the state's Department of Labor and Workforce around migrant workers, because the states has now 3,000 who are work authorized. And if an employer, whether a municipality or private, has a need, they can reach out to this one person, let them know the need, the skills they need, and the state will identify folks that have those skills and are work authorized and are located as close as possible to that location. So obviously then there's a matter of transportation that we discussed, but not every DPW role requires a license, like even thinking grounds crew or what have you. So if there are positions needing to be filled, we could think more creatively around that.
So, Celia, a question I have for that, and this is based off of Franklin stuff, like where we live, is that folks, when you mentioned, migrant folks, my immediate thought was, do folks have social security numbers and things like that? Because that prevents them from getting paid if they don't. So
yeah, so the state's been getting them authorized. So there's now 3,000 who have those work authorizations. So the employer doesn't have to do that.
all right. Thank you.
Yeah, so the biggest hurdles would be transportation, but that's why they're identifying folks located in close proximity to the work sites or employers, and then language. But the state's also doing English as a second language courses through a number of like nonprofits and others that's relevant to the job. So if it's in a healthcare setting, they need English, like they need to know like stethoscope or a thermometer, but they don't need that if they're working at DPW. Like it's basic English plus terminology relevant to DPW. So there's all sorts of stuff that exists that we could potentially tap.
Yeah, so I'll reach out to you, Celia, just for that contact information. I definitely would be interested in looking into that.
Yeah.
Do we know where the closest, I don't know what the word is to use,
Like housing right now?
yeah, to Scituate?
I don't. I have no idea.
I know there's a number being housed in Boston, obviously, but I'm not sure where else on the South Shore, because I keep coming back to how would they get here?
Yeah.
I think there was some in the Kingston or Plymouth area. I know last summer they had some down at one of the hotels down there.
Yeah, and I think Rockland too. Some of the hotels in Rockland.
Okay.
In Quincy, actually.
But I'm glad you brought that up, Celia, because that's where my mind was going. Being an immigrant. you know, you look for those jobs. My dad was lucky enough to work for a local construction company in Scituate. When his English wasn't great, but he was able to, you know, provide, you know, for his family doing that. So I'm glad you went there and you had that background from what the state is doing. That was good information to share.
Yeah, and I think DPW would be a good landing spot too, just because of a story Kevin shared when we first met, just around how inclusive that department has been to folks that have English as a second language. They definitely have experience onboarding folks with multiple languages and helping them. So I think it would be a good landing spot. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just looking at the clock. I'm trying to think of what else we discussed
Yeah.
in that meeting. I think the other thing we touched on at the end, Bob, I'm not Bob, Tom, after you left, was just, I asked a little bit about procurement process and how is that going? Because I know they were a little understaffed to do as much as they would like to do, but still obviously do really well. And before Maura left, she also had forwarded along a presentation around the new Hatherley Cushing School, because obviously that's that a lot of folks have are going to be working on that in terms of vendors, and they are taking into consideration supplier diversity, which is great, and that was embedded into the presentation. And Kevin spoke a little bit about that. He did say the town now has 3 people who are certified purchasing agents. There were 2 to begin with. It was Kevin and Nancy, and now there's an additional person, so that's a good thing. So I think the town is doing well here. He did stress too how they work a lot with local vendors. I haven't done this yet, Bob, connect him with the Builders of Color Coalition, because they are in the trades and they may know many vendors in this space for DPW. So I'm going to make that introduction to Colleen or have someone on my team do it for you, so I'm not in the middle of it. So that's just maybe something to follow up on at some point with not just Kevin, but Kevin, Nancy, and whoever the third person is that is certified. Because I'm sure that the town is obviously doing what it needs to do. I just feel like we can always do more. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, yeah, moving on, still a few more topics to cover. So a week and a half later, there was also a meeting, Scituate Police Department. That was Angela, Bob, Chief Thompson, myself. So I'll just do the same thing. I'll just go through and give you my high level notes, and then Angela and Bob jump in. So this is another one where I think I attended for 45 minutes to an hour, and then I had to jump. Language issues. According to Chief Thompson, they don't run into many issues or incidents with non-English speaking residents. So this is scattershot notes, but they do more training than what's mandated by the state, which I think we were pretty aware of when we received the survey response from Chief Thompson a couple years ago. He talked about the Freedom Team and how they at least endeavor to meet every month. He said great things about you, Jamil. Not surprising. We did talk about, and I'm not sure where we got with this, but we did talk about representation from the Scituate Police Public Safety on this committee, because for those that are late joiners, we did have representation early on, and we no longer really have that for a variety of reasons. But the chief said he's certainly open, and he could probably bring others if we want to have, side quarterly meetings, what have you. I mean, I've been impressed with Chief Topham just with his openness and his willingness to meet. We did talk about some of the incidents in town, and he was open about that. The Chinese restaurant, the swastika incident, Museum Beach, obviously. So he did talk about it. And, you know, what he, at least in terms of what he could discuss. Said they're fully staffed right now. They have 38 officers, although he wants to get it to 44. So I didn't really follow this part. He said he was fully staffed, but he also mentioned like a lot of cases where somebody might be out injured, somebody might be training. So a lot of times they're, you know, the summer's coming. They need a lot more patrols for the beaches and all that type of stuff. So sounds like he's doing the best he can, but sounds like he could use a few more officers. They're all wearing multiple hats. He mentioned that they are better. This sounded exactly like, and I brought it up, this sounded exactly like the conversations that I've had with Erica at social services. He said they're better when they're proactive, but are constantly in reactive mode due to staffing shortages. They're all wearing multiple hats, which is exactly what Erica used to say to me and to us. So we did segue that into talking about the social worker discussions that we have had and presented to the select board about, you know, several months ago in an effort to kind of help Erica out with some of her stuff. So those were my notes. Angela or Bob, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would, when you mentioned the language issues not being, you know, an issue that they see in the police department, but I think the chief was surprised to hear how many languages are spoken at the schools. You know, he took a lot of
That's
interest.
right.
And I
Yeah.
think you shared with him that information that you've gotten. So I think that speaks to being proactive again. So, you know, in our beautiful small town, sometimes the information doesn't get disseminated and everyone knows what's going on. So I really like the fact that he was interested to knowing that we had X amount of families, even though it's not large numbers, but they do exist. If there's 2 or 3 families that speak Mandarin or one family speaks German, I think the chief, again, was interested to hear that information. Regarding the instances, like you mentioned, Tom, a lot of those things they're investigating, they can share detail, you know, I think we all understand when those things happen. I also like the fact that the chief mentioned the importance of building trust in the community. So when instances happen in the community, people feel that, you know, it's being addressed and it's not, you know, even though they can share specifics to any, you know, investigation, but, you know, if the community feels, you know, trust within the police department, then you sit back and just let them do their job and feel like, you know, everyone's getting the equitable treatment that they deserve, whoever the victim may be. So, you know, I liked everything that we heard. The representation in on our committee, you know, the fact that the police, the chief indicated that a lot of things that we discuss are policy driven. So he felt that he's the best person to speak to those policies because everything they do is they're not creating their policies, their procedures. So that's why he offered, you know, to participate in our meetings whenever we needed him. So again, I think that's good partnership that we can, you know, have going forward with the SPD. Yeah, that's all I had.
Yeah, so I think that Tom and Angela hit all the major points. I guess a couple things I will add. One is and Tom mentioned that they're at 38 offices right now. I think he talked about, you know, ideally with the number of residents in this town, they would be at like 44. So he's actually asked the town to add 6 additional offices, which wasn't ultimately approved. It's just a budgetary issue. But one of the points that he made, and I had a subsequent conversation just to confirm this, is that if he were to add more offices, he would look, even the first 2 additional offices, if he was able to get them, he would add another SRO, school resource officer. Right now they have 2. Used to be just 1, now it's 2. He says they could even use 3, you know, so he really wants to put the resources towards that. And the second thing, he would want to do almost a sort of social services officer. I don't know what what the actual title is, but someone who has more of a background in terms of mental health and substance abuse to work more closely with Erica as well. And so he which, you know, clearly that was something I think that's critical to us. We identified, you know, a need to really support some of the work that Erica was doing because she supports our work as well. So, you know, I've had a subsequent conversation with him about the idea of adding an embedded social worker. You can get an external grant potentially to do that. And he also likes that idea, but he really felt like he wouldn't want to see that happen until they were able to get one of these community resource officers. That's a title actually that he used. So I think from our perspective, you know,
Right.
particularly if we ever get to the point where we're making a recommendation to the select board, I think it, you know, it would be incumbent upon us to at least give our blessing to his request, particularly for those two new officers who would be an SRO and a community resource officer. I think that will go a long way towards, you know, to reaching some of the goals that we've set for the department. So.
Yeah, I mean, we could give that. I mean, we could give that another shot, and you know, if we do it with Chief Thompson, you know, that could add some additional weight to what we've already presented with Erica, which, you know, we don't need to kind of relitigate that, but you know, she was so forthcoming and so passionate about her role, you know, really on the verge of burning out. There's no other way to put it, really. So,
Bob, for those two positions, those are police officers with like specialties, right? It's not like a different, okay.
That would be his role, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's definitely something we can look at. All right. So just briefly, and then I'll just open it up and being mindful of time if other people want to jump in with various things. Equity audit, we've discussed the last few meetings. Carrie and I still have not met. We are meeting on Friday. All are invited to Need Bakery on Front Street, 133 Front Street. I'll buy you a croissant or whatever if you want to come by. Friday, 9 o'clock. So we are going to meet. We're going to talk about this. So that'll be cool. I haven't done anything else with that since last meeting, so I don't know.
I might just come to meet you in person, Tom.
You can do that. I'm not. I'm a little scary.
Do it.
I'm tall. So the only person I
just
ever really run into is I run into Angela. That's about it. I run into Angela. That's it.
I don't know. Celia and I have children in the same age range. I think we're running in different circles.
Yeah, I think so. Sorry, Jamil, go ahead.
No, I'm saying, is this the district equity audit?
It would be, well, we don't know the scope of what we would potentially advocate for or not advocate for. It would be townwide. Well, again, I just I don't know what it would be. Very early stages, just kicking around the idea of what something like that would look like. That's why, like, several months ago, I sent you a text and I said, "Hey, how much did the equity audit cost that you guys did for the school?"
Gotcha.
You gave me some information. You know, is it something that if we could get the idea, I think, is that if we could ascertain a grant that would pay for it, and if we were like very intentional about scoping and so forth, are there different things within the town that we could, I'm not looking for skeletons, but are there different things within the town that we can uncover to help us along in certain areas? You know, whether it is hiring practices or comparison to other towns, like, and we might come out of it and say, you know what, we're kicking butt. We're ahead of the curve. Or we might see some areas where we're not. We're really missing the ball. I don't know. you know, we're all volunteers and we're all passionate and so forth, but maybe with the exception of Celia, I mean, this isn't my day job.
Hmm.
If that makes sense.
Natick comes to mind because I think they may have done a town one recently. I think maybe I could be off, but think they did one a while
We've
ago.
got a couple of towns that
Okay.
we're going to be doing some research on.
All right.
So
And then there was that,
yeah,
and then remember there's that old
There's a
one that
handful.
was done. Remember the old one done with Scituate and Cohasset and some other town. I think like 3 towns got together and somebody did it, something like that. For a while, like I want to say it might have been 10 years ago or something like that.
No,
Maybe
I
not
wasn't
that
even
long.
aware. I wasn't even aware of that. Yeah, I don't know.
Bless you.
Yeah, so salary audit could be a part of it. You know, and I've had discussions with Lauren Vitale about that. So she knows that we're kind of kicking that around with our committee.
Good.
So, yeah. That's the main part of the agenda that I had. Does anybody else want to jump in with anything?
Tom, just a quick note, maybe this could be helpful for Bob and Jamil, but I was recently at a presentation, and the State Secretary of Education, Patrick Tutwiler, said that there are genocide education grants available. There's about 50 now in the state. So depending on the work that you all are doing with the schools or the town, that might be helpful. He also referenced something that was called the inclusive grants. I'm not sure what that was. But then maybe for you, Bob, he said there are also hate crime grants, which are essentially professional development and training for staff around like definitions and other matters around hate crimes. So I don't know. I had never heard about these things. So I was like, oh, I'll share.
Is it specific to law enforcement or just more in terms of the general?
It seemed general to me,
You're
but
correct.
I
It'd
can
be
try to
general.
get more information. But
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Anybody else?
Tom, you and anyone else, if you want, at one point you had mentioned land acknowledgement piece, and I'm kind of more than happy to kind of join you on that a little bit, because it may be a different way. We may have a different way to get at that, because I know last time we ran into a couple of hurdles that we just didn't anticipate, but there may be a different way to get everybody on board with it, kind of thing.
Okay.
I mean, just part of the Scituate pride at the end of the day. I mean, just is so embedded in what Scituate is, indigenous roots, that is. And then I thought we was gonna have, is something happening at that place that they're building near the pier, and they were gonna have an indigenous acknowledgement as a part of that.
So there was, we had a good meeting with them. We actually had them attend a DEI meeting. It was probably 6-7 months ago now. And I forget who, I think Carrie might know the gentleman, right? That's running with a lot of that. They continue, it's kids night, by the way, and the Scituate DEI committee.
That's the theme. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, it's actually my uncle that's running that. We're like part of that project. So happy to reconnect if needed. Not sure where like the next steps were in terms of that. I think they talked about doing a mural.
Yeah, I'm on a mailing list. Probably that your uncle sends out. I'm sorry, what is his name? Can you?
Oh yeah, it's Paul Barkowitz.
Yeah, so he's the one that sends the emails and so forth. So it's easy to get on that distribution list. The next time they meet periodically, and they talk about all this stuff. I don't know what the timeline is or anything like that, but they were very bullish on having an area, artwork, or what have you, highlighting. I mean, don't quote me on all this, but their roots, the sister cities, all that type of stuff. So I was, pretty happy with their focus on those types of issues. So thanks for bringing that up. And the land acknowledgement, Jamil. So I was talking to Natasha about that before she went out on her sabbatical, and could definitely pick that back up. I was actually going through some notes earlier today and I saw it. So yeah, I don't want to lose sight of it. So I appreciate you bringing that up. All right. Anything else? All right. So with that, I would like to make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thanks, Celia. All right, calling the roll, Ms. Dre,
Yes.
Ms. Risha,
Yes.
Ms. Sun. I am a lip reader. That was a yes from Ms. Sun. Ms. Gulata.
Yes.
All right, and I am a yes. All right, thank you so much. It is 7:38 and the meeting is adjourned.